The first wave, the right to be seen and heard. The second wave, the right to be treated like a man. The third wave, realizing different types of women and men need different things to combat patriarchy and bigotry. This is Sorry, I'm a Bad Feminist. Okay, we're going to get into it today. I'm really excited about this episode, and I have been rereading Roxane Gay's novel, Bad Feminist. I had to make sure it was gay and not gray. Anyways, for those of you who have never read Bad Feminist, highly recommend it. It explores being a feminist while loving things that seem odd. It engages pop culture with personal experiences, covering topics such as Django, Sweet Valley High, and Gay's own upbringing as a Haitian American. It's nice too because it also talks about like being a feminist as a fat woman, which I have experience with. And it was hard at times because really the people who were treating me the worst were women. And then it also talks about being a feminist as a Black woman, which I think even more now, I think it would be very, very hard to be a Black feminist when 92% of Black women voted for Kamala and 53% of white women voted for Trump or set their fucking asses at home. With feminism, I think a lot of parts where we get it wrong is we're constantly asking for equality when in the patriarchy, and as long as we have a society that's patriarchal, there is no equality for us. We should not be asking for equality. We need to be liberating ourselves from that society, and only we can do that. So when we see 53% of white women voting for the patriarchal system or voting how their husbands vote and voting against other women, it just keeps continuing. When we were thinking of episodes, I was like, I want to shout out the original Bad Feminist because her writing is just so impeccable and she goes through so many different things. And I think it's still relevant today and even more relevant today, actually. Roxane Gay also kind of goes into talking about feminism and media, and she talks about shows like the show Girls. She mentions about how Lena Dunham's character says that she's a voice of a generation. And Roxane's like, yeah, I mean, maybe she is, but like, I'm not the target audience of that. Like, you know, I don't want to be nostalgic for my 20s when I was broke and miserable and dating horrible dudes. So she goes into and she names off a couple of different things in media that pertains to feminism. But just recently there was a show called Mrs. America, and Mrs. America is, I think you can watch it on Hulu, Apple TV. It won an Emmy. And this show talks about the Equal Rights Amendment, so the ERA, and it talks about the people who were standing up for it, Gloria Steinem, Shirley Chisholm. And then it also talks about the people who didn't want it, like Phyllis Schlafly, who was the biggest person to say, like, absolutely not. And she was an attorney, so she was a very smart woman. But I think, honestly, Phyllis Schlafly was just really upset because she has the worst fucking name ever. She believed women needed to be at home, and that was their place, which is so funny because she was an attorney and an activist. And then you have Gloria Steinem on the other hand that's like, yeah, you can do all of these things. Like, I'm not telling you can't, but you're telling people that they can't do things. Phyllis, she was anti-feminist. She was a conservative activist. She was very against the ERA. And she also published a book called A Choice, Not an Echo, which is so funny that that's what it's called because you're literally taking that choice away from women. But go off, queen. And it sold more than 3 million copies. Why? She thought, you know, women need to be at home, and she thought the ERA was going to make it that women had to work and they couldn't be stay-at-home moms. she would talk about the matriarchy and about how it was important to be moms. And I would just kind of refute that by saying the matriarchy doesn't focus on power and domination. It focuses on the vulnerable. That's why the matriarchy has a hard time winning, because the patriarchy focuses on domination and total control. We aren't. So that's never going to win when we're focusing on the downtrodden or the vulnerable, or, the people who don't have as much of a voice. How do you win out on people who are wanting total domination and control? It's hard. You will never break down a patriarchal society without standing together. And I think we saw that with the last election, is like, women aren't standing together. Like, that's insane. That's insane that we would see a woman going for president and you would vote for the man. Like, why? I don't know. I think it's hard for me too. The reason why I always call myself a bad feminist is because I am a stay-at-home mom. I do have privilege in a patriarchal society where I can be home and not work, but at the same time, I'm also shooting myself in the foot because I took myself out of the job market, and I have a huge gap in my resume now, and I will never be able to compete with the women who didn't stay home and chose their career and, chose to continue down that path. Like, I won't be able to compete. So entering the job market, if I ever have to again, I've taken privilege in a patriarchal system and the fact that I can stay at home, but also to my detriment. A patriarchal society is dangerous for women, and like, the number one killer for pregnant women is murder by men. The maternal death rate is the highest in America out of any other developed country. So the patriarchal system isn't protecting you at all. It's killing you. And with that, I kind of want to get into true crime. I have a lot of friends who are true crime lovers. I have to admit, I get into it. I love true crime. And we talked about this on the gossip episode where we said that it's kind of protecting yourself, like it's a survival thing, kind of like a what not to do. I'm going to watch this and then maybe it'll help me in the future. For instance, how do you say her name? I have a bunch of things I want to say, but I don't know how to pronounce people's names. Spire? Pronunciation. Do you ever do this? Do you ever go to Google and listen to the YouTube of like how to say people's names? Spira. Kind of. What language is that? For instance, when I believe I was a senior in high school, the Lauren Spear disappearance happened. This was a woman who was in college at IU in Bloomington, and she disappeared after a night of drinking. She was out at Kilroy's and then went back to her place. And while she was in an elevator with this guy, I think his name was Corey, a bunch of her boyfriend's frat brothers saw it, and a fight ensued because they were like, she's drunk. Why are you with him? You don't know this guy. Where's your boyfriend? And so a fight ensued. So they left her place. They went to another friend's place. The boy's story was that at 4 a.m. she walked home by herself, but they also lawyered up really quick afterwards, which I guess is smart because nothing ever happened to them. There's also a theory that Israel Keys was in the area and that he might have had something to do with it, but it's still a mystery. Nobody knows what happened to this girl. But because this happened, and I was like a senior in high school, when I went to college, I was so careful. And maybe it's because this was such a big case in Indiana. Everybody was talking about it. But I think that's why women consume so much true crime, even though most true crime is violence against women. But I think we consume it because it's like a survival tactic for us. It does protect us in a way. It is not lost on me that so much true crime is violence against women and we just eat it up. Like we saw with the Gabby Petito case. I mean, that blew up. People were all over her socials. We had people on TikTok trying to solve the murder. There were true crime cases. Puts the victim at the forefront. Or like what we saw with Karen Reed, which I think is just so, there was so much misogyny in the Karen Reed case. I mean, just the text messages alone from the lead investigator. He called her a cunt. He was looking for nudes on her phone and expressed his disappointment when he didn't find any. He said things like, pin it on the girl. They just went after her. Even the news kind of treated her like she was guilty. And then when juror number 1, the foreman, came on and did an interview, they were like, well, if Reed didn't kill him, then who did? And the foreman was like, that's not my job. But I think we see in media a lot of times it's more popular. You get more ratings if you're demonizing women and instead of calling out corruption. I mean, TikTok was blown up with, can you believe this corruption? And that's where I was getting that side of it. And then you get on the news and they're like, accused boyfriend killer Karen Reed. And as we saw with the jurors in the Karen Reed case, a lot of the men that came out said, hey, we viewed her as innocent, which is what you're supposed to do when you're on a jury. You're supposed to go in and think of them as innocent until they are proven guilty by the prosecution. So a lot of the men said that, and a lot of the women said that they came in thinking, well, I think she might be guilty. And I think as women, we do that. That also goes into being a bad feminist, is women not having each other's backs. I think we saw that with the Sabrina Carpenter album cover, because I have a theory about this, and I'm just going to say it. If Cardi B had an album cover like that, none of you would have said shit. And I'll tell you why. It's because you expect white women to not be on their knees and horny, but you do expect it from black women because you hypersexualize them. So you're okay with Cardi B singing about WAP, which, yes, you should be okay with that, but you're not okay with Sabrina Carpenter having her hair pulled. Sorry, I just feel like if Cardi B came out and her album cover was that, none of you would have said shit. But you expect little white blonde girls to not be on their knees with hair pulled. Why is that? And that makes you a bad fucking feminist. I'm sorry. Feminism is for everybody, even the horny girls. So shut the fuck up. Like, why are you going after women? We should stop it. And if you know, a lot of people are like, well, she's setting us back. Why? Because I don't hear any men going after her. I just hear women. It's loud from women. And sure, decenter men in your own life. That is fine. I think it's very problematic to put feminism in a box and say, stay here. You're doing exactly what the patriarchy is doing. Putting women in their place and saying like, oh, you can't do this because then girls are going to think this and they're going to think that. Shut up. Have the same energy for men. Did a light just go off? Yeah, it did. Have the same energy for men. I mean, shut the fuck up. Some of you sat on your fucking couch and didn't vote in November, so shut the fuck up. Actually, let's talk about that. Let's talk about November, because I'm still pissed. Do you know what happens when you see a woman like Hillary Clinton or Kamala Harris running and all you can do is point out their flaws? Do you know what happens? Let me just fucking tell you. When you expect women to be politically perfect, the fucking bozos win elections because you're so hyper focused on little tiny shit. And then men just run shit because we're sitting here like yapping at each other because women have to be perfect. They have to be perfect at all times. While men can say shit like grab them by the pussy and have 34 felony counts and a rape charge and win an election because we sat around and talked about like, well, Kamala, you know, but shut the fuck up. We're expecting women. I mean, literally, we need to give women grace. Like, you can be politically imperfect. I mean, as of 2023, 25% of the U.S. Senate are women. By the way, 50-something% of the population is women, but whatever. 10% of Fortune 500 CEOs are women. 32.8% of college and university presidents are women. But did you know that more women are getting college degrees? We're more qualified, but men are getting the jobs. Because some of you set your asses home in November, and I'll never forgive you. Female politicians, they're targets for physical violence and threats. Like we saw it when AOC was called a fucking bitch on the steps of the Senate. And the guy and Senator Yoho was like, so? And guess what we did? Nothing. Female politicians are subject to a high volume of online abuse. I think that goes even past female politicians. I think just like women in general, like we see it on online with us. We can't say shit. We can't say shit without people attacking us for the dumbest shit. I literally made a comment about how I got drinks bought for me at the bar, and someone was like, I don't believe the blonde girl. You don't see these tits? You don't think I got drinks bought for me? It was a woman who said it. She didn't believe me that I didn't get drinks bought for me. Don't make me stand up and turn around. Okay? You don't even have to see my face to want to buy me a drink, bitch. You know what? Actually, if you don't believe that I got drinks bought for me, this is what I have to say to that woman. Bring your husband around. Tell your husband to pull up. Let's see it. Okay, I bet you don't want to. That better make the cut. I think we need to end it by talking about trans women. The whole point of the third wave of feminism is the whole time we've been asking for a seat at the table when really we just need to build our own. And I think we've realized that. We're so focused on shattering the glass ceiling. I don't know. Let's see if there's a fucking escalator. Let's go around that shit. The third wave of feminism, I think this first and the second wave of feminism really, really focused on white women. And I think this next wave of feminism, I think we're going to just focus on women as a whole. Trans women, black women at the forefront. At the forefront, but not on the front lines. Bitch. I think we need to shout out Martha P. Johnson. She was an American gay liberation activist, self-identified drag queen, the drag queen, known as an outspoken advocate for gay rights, and she was one of the prominent figures in the Stonewall Uprising of 1969. And she did more for feminism than all you little white bitches that sat there and voted for Trump in November. Or set your asses at home. In closing, shout out to all the bad feminists, especially Roxane Gay, and read her book if you haven't. It's very good. It's a quick read. And next week, we're going to be doing Sorry, I'm a Nepo Baby. So you hear all my opinions on Nepo babies, which I know you all want.